love each y'all.
All right, let's get cooking. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD, and I want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us. And as always, we welcome any suggestions, feedback, comments, and criticisms, which improves the quality of our program, which ultimately improves your listening experience. Before we get started, we once again want to send our well wishes to you all as we deal with the current pandemic of COVID-19. Let's just be mindful, folks, that even though states are starting to open back up and they're easing these restrictions, we are not completely out of the woods yet, for there is still no vaccine, there is still no cure. We are still in the middle of this, despite political leaders trying to project numbers that it shows the virus is on a downward spiral and they're being proven false. So let's still continue to practice our social distancing, washing our hands, wearing our masks, really continuing on with the proper hygiene of washing our hands. Because again, folks, we are not out of the woods yet. We are still in the middle of this thing. But I understand why states had to open back up. It's a way to get the economy going. So let's not forget, we're still dealing with this thing, and let's just take it day by day. And once again, if we at Chin Check Radio can serve as a distraction to everything that's going on, that's what we're very proud of. On this broadcast, this is kind of a catch-up broadcast that I would say. And here is something that are issues that have been brewing for a little while, and I've wanted to talk about them, but I was in the middle of doing our Chin Check Radio top 10 list. And I didn't want a break in the listings. I wanted to be a straight number 1 through number 10. And the list, I'm very proud of that list. Definitely was not easy to put together, as I've stated on numerous occasions. But the thing that I am most proud of is that it definitely got people talking. Definitely people called and tweeted and emailed me and, definitely sparked some good debate discussions about some of these fighters. But again, this is my way of paying homage and paying respect to these guys because of the memories that they gave me, and I'm sure as well as they gave you all, my other hardcore fight fans. And you have people who really weren't true boxing fans, but they remember watching those fighters. It forced people to go back and rewatch their fights on YouTube. Now, I have a vast video collection of videotapes and DVDs. Of course, not everything is on YouTube. So you can go back and watch some of these old fighters and see the fights that I talked about, see what made these fighters so special. And once again, at Chin Check Radio, to all those fighters, and even the ones who made honorable mentions, even the ones who didn't even make the list, you're not forgotten. We definitely enjoy watching you fight. And of course, we'll do a program on you all as we keep this Chin Check Radio program going. But on this broadcast, this is a couple of topics that I kept my eye on. And I felt now, since the boxing list is over with, these are some things that I wanted to give our opinion about. And it's something that it's been a long time coming. And we have our issues with some of the things that we saw. And I don't feel that the mainstream media touched on this. And one of the issues, or one of the reasons why I decided to create Chin Check Radio, is some of the stuff that I watch the mainstream sports media say. Now, when we think of mainstream sports media, you think of employees at Fox Sports Network, you think of employees at ESPN. I generally watch the Fox Sports Network now. I've spent my time watching ESPN, which pushed me over to Fox Sports Network, and there really is no big difference. And my issue is how they cover, how they portray certain topics, what they talk about, and who they give a pass to, how they criticize athletes and give other athletes a pass. Namely one Michael Jordan. Now, as you all know, there's been the Last Dance, or the Last Dance documentary on ESPN chronicling the Chicago Bulls last season back in 1997 through 1998. And of course, I was alive. That was my time in high school, so I'm well aware of that time, and I remember watching it. And So it definitely brought back a lot of nostalgia, a lot of things that I remembered, and, you know, of course, it tells you how great Michael Jordan is. Now, if you want to say that he's the greatest of all time, you're entitled to your opinion. Some people feel it's LeBron. But what I find funny, much like in our current political climate, people are truly dug in, where despite what you tell them, despite what evidence that you might give them, people are just dug in no matter how you slice it. So I remember I was going back and forth on Twitter with the guy, and I said, you have to look at how you define greatness. Because the argument is, if you want to argue greatness or greatest of all time, is that Mike was 6-0 in the finals, while LeBron he has his 3 championships, but he's gone 3-6. So people define greatness by the number of rings. Well, if you go by number of rings, wouldn't that be Bill Russell, who has 11? Couldn't that be Kareem? Because you can make an argument Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was unstoppable on the court. So it depends on who you talk to, when you talk to them, what criteria that you want to use to best support your argument. And those greatest of all time discussions, it's a fun discussion. You're entitled to your opinion. For instance, you can make an argument if Joe Montana or Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. Yes, Tom Brady has the 6 Super Bowls, but Montana never lost in the Super Bowl. So, you know, people use different arguments and different criteria to fuel their argument or to augment their argument, but at the same time, it's your opinion. But I've noticed when it comes to Michael Jordan, the ball player, and you start to maybe talk to kind of throw your arguments out there as to why you think that LeBron James could be possibly the greatest of all time, it turns into good old-fashioned name calling and insults and like grown men acting like petulant children, you know, thinking that Jordan is the greatest of all time and anything. And if you don't even agree with that concept, then that's sacrilegious. And it's just one of those, you know, it's blasphemy, you know. So it's just something that is shocking when I see grown ass men, especially in the Twitter world, behaving the way that they behave for a simple comparison, or folks voicing their opinion that, hey, I think that this person is the greatest of all time, better than this person. So it is what it is. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, much like we are at Chin Check Sports Radio. Now, my issue is that the mainstream media gives people a pass, and in this case, it's going to be Michael Jordan, where the man's greatness on the court, his greatness on the court, all of a sudden overshadows, engulfs everything else that he's done off the court, or the lack of things that he's done off the court. So let me say this again. The man's greatness on the court seems to overshadow and erases and wipes out everything else that he does off the court. I just find that funny in the mainstream media criticisms of this man, or lack thereof. Now, people are going to tell me, you mean to tell me that MJ wasn't criticized back then? Yes, he was. But guess what? As time has gone on, those criticisms have now evaporated, and he is held to a mythical standard on issues where he should not be held as a mythical figure. There were some things that he has done, and of course we're all not perfect and we're all human, but at the same time, he should be called out about that the same way you call out other people for doing the same thing. But because he's Michael Jordan, all of a sudden his actions gets a pass. So these are some of the issues that I have with the mainstream media and their coverage of certain things. Now, I want to talk about one of the first things that I saw in the Save the Last Dance documentary. Was when Michael Jordan, during a playoff series, playing against the Boston Celtics, he plays a round of golf with Danny Ainge, who played for the Celtics. Now, I don't have an issue with Mike playing golf. I can care less. He can play golf whoever he chooses to play golf with. That's not the issue. The issue that I have is that the mainstream sports media gets on the current athletes. They're too friendly. They're this, they're that. Nobody has a killer instinct. Everybody's too friendly. They push the narrative that the modern day athlete is too friendly with their enemies. Nobody has a killer instinct. But here you have Michael Jordan 30 some odd years ago in the middle of a playoff series that he was down 0-1, playing golf against an opposing player, and oh, by the way, they lost that very next game. They were down 0-2, and they lost the series. But yet, Jordan gets a pass on that, and yet when you ask the mainstream media, hey, how do you explain this? Where here you have Mike in the middle of a playoff series playing golf with an opposing player. They lose the game, they lose the series, but yet that's all forgotten because of what Jordan eventually accomplished. But keep in mind, Odell Beckham is still blamed for the Miami boat trip before they played the Green Bay Packers. Tony Romo is still blamed for taking the trip to Cabo, Mexico on an off week before they played the New York Giants in the 2007 divisional playoffs. So I just find that funny when it comes to other athletes. They're criticized and those decisions are still held over their head to this day. But yet when it comes to Michael Jordan, all of a sudden that's given a pass because of everything else that he accomplished. So again, my issue is not with Jordan playing golf. The man can play golf until his heart is content. It is how the mainstream media, how they cover the old athlete or the athletes of yesteryear versus the modern day athlete by saying how the modern day athlete, they don't have that drive and they're this and they're too friendly. Name me Skip Bayless. They're too friendly. They're this and they're that. And here you have what folks call the greatest of all time, playing golf in the middle of a playoff series against an opposing player. They were already down 0-1, they were down 0-2, and they eventually lost that series. Let me ask you this question. If LeBron James did that, how would the new media cover that nowadays? Just throwing that out there. Just throwing it out there. If LeBron James was playing golf with, I don't know, Steph Curry before the NBA Finals or during the NBA Finals and they lost that series, how would the mainstream media behave about that? Just throwing it out there. I'm just saying. Another thing I had, or issue that I had of the mainstream media, was their coverage or trying to excuse Michael Jordan not endorsing Harvey Gantt during his run against Jesse Helms in North Carolina. Now, when he asked Michael Jordan would he endorse Harvey Gantt, Michael Jordan pretty much said he was not going to endorse Harvey Gantt and stated that Republicans buy sneakers too, or Republicans buy Jordans too. Okay, so that's paraphrasing, that's not a direct quote. Now, Michael has every right to choose whether to endorse whatever candidate that he chooses to endorse. That's not the issue. Okay, it is what it is. My issue that I have with it is that the mainstream sports media is justifying Michael making that statement. Now all of a sudden is, well, he's only an athlete. What difference would it have made? That's not what we ask of our professional athletes. LeBron James, he endorsed Hillary in 2016, and what difference did it make? And stop. And when J.A. Adonde got his coon ass on the Colin Cowherd show saying that same nonsense, I had a serious issue with that. And I haven't spoke to him on Twitter. I hate to use speak on Twitter, but I communicated my disagreement with him on Twitter, and I never got a response for that. And I was hoping for a response, but they respond to everything else except when it's about, okay, you mean to tell me that Harvey Gantt ran against one Jesse Helms? If you look at Jesse Helms, the man opposed a Dr. King holiday. Let me say this again. The guy who Harvey Gantt ran against, one Jesse Helms, opposed a Dr. King holiday by calling King a Marxist and a communist. Go back and look this up. The man was involved in black voter suppression. So the question that I asked Colin Cowherd, J.A. Adonde, Joy Taylor telling me how Michael was such an alpha on the court. No, I need for you to be an alpha off the court. Because if Michael would have endorsed this guy, you mean to tell me that would not have swayed a couple of votes? Because let's face it. Now, the mainstream media is, well, Michael contributed behind the scenes. He gave money behind the scenes. We know in American society, we don't judge you by what you do behind the scenes. We judge you by what you do out in the open. We don't judge a professional athlete for the work that he do in the off season. We judge you based on if that work in the off season, if it shows results on the field or on the court. We want results. We judge by what we see. That's just the bottom line. And for now, the argument to be that what would a Michael Jordan, the biggest athlete in the world at that time, what his endorsement would have meant in his home state of North Carolina, running against a man who opposed a Dr. King holiday who was involved in black voter suppression. Now, years later, the J.A. Adonis are telling me, well, what would it, it really wouldn't have meant anything. And what would it have meant? I have a serious problem with that. I really had a serious problem with that. I felt insulted by that. And I feel that you all should too, because again, Mike gets a pass on that. Now, again, Mike can choose whoever he chooses to endorse. I don't have an issue with that. But to me, what that shows is that he's worried about his money. Because what we're finding out now, especially with everything that's going on with the current COVID-19 pandemic, is that elections have serious, and I would even say fatal consequences. So, to me, Mike not endorsing a black man, a black candidate, against one. So you can say, well, is it a black and white issue? Let me say this again. A candidate who opposed a Dr. King holiday by calling a man a Marxist and a communist, a man who was involved in black voter suppression in order to win elections, that's the person who Jordan could not speak out against, and he couldn't endorse Harvey Gantt. I'm not saying that Republicans buy sneakers too. So that shows that you're there for your money and you're not there for the people. So again, as an athlete, I could have swore you had that responsibility, because when Charles Barkley told you that he wasn't a role model, he was excoriated for that. The mainstream media will tell you that's not right. Athletes are role models. They're role models to children. Children look up to them. Children buy their sneakers. Children have their posters. People get on professional athletes because of what high schoolers do, and they're watching the athletes, and the athletes, they're role models. So they will tell you, the mainstream sports media, that athletes are role models and they should be held to a higher standard because they're athletes. For instance, Myles Garrett, and I talked about this on a previous broadcast. The guy asked to take a selfie with Myles Garrett. The guy punches Myles Garrett and runs away. I know for a fact that Myles Garrett was a finance guy and beat the hell out of him. They would have said that Myles Garrett should have exercised more restraint because he's a professional athlete versus a man first. So now all of a sudden, when it's Michael Jordan, all of a sudden, well, he's only a professional athlete. He's not into politics. That's not really his thing. He shouldn't say anything. But Charles Barkley told you that I'm not a role model. Now all of a sudden, he was criticized and excoriated for that. But when it comes to Mike, that's okay. And now his actions are justified. And it's funny, when I threw this out there in the Twitter world, I got not one single solitary response. When I said that, hey, I think LeBron James is the GOAT, everybody jumped on Twitter, had something to say. But when I started pointing these facts out about the guy who Mike refused to endorse versus the guy that he was running against, all of a sudden I got crickets. So this goes to show the pass that people give to one Michael Jordan. Just throw it out there. Again, it's not a knock on MJ, it's a knock on the mainstream media's coverage of Michael Jordan. Now, another thing I saw that where MJ was given a pass on is the whole bullying thing. So you have Michael Jordan bullying teammates, picking fights with teammates, treating teammates, I would say awfully, denying food to teammates, bully. Now, Joy Taylor sat there and said, well, that's not being a bully. So did Colin Cowherd, so did Skip Bayless. But I remember a couple of years ago when Richie Incognito had those bullying allegations against him, and everybody jumped on the anti-bully campaign. Oh, that's not good, the hazing and the bullying, and that needs to stop, and no more, tying guys to the goalpost and taking guys' food, and bullying is wrong and hazing is wrong, and that stuff has to stop and it's so outdated, and everybody jumped on the anti-bullying campaign. But yet when Jordan does it, well, it's not really bullying because the ends justify the means, and they want titles, and that's how you have to push people in order to be great. So now all of a sudden, because they won, again, Jordan the ball player can't be separated from Jordan the man. So all of a sudden the two go hand in hand, and that's okay. And I have a serious issue with that. Because to bully somebody is to threaten or intimidate somebody more vulnerable than you. And in that case of the Chicago Bulls, you have Jordan and his teammates, the Horace Grants and the Scott Burrells, the players who was not on the star level of Michael Jordan, and Michael using his power, his influence, his stardust to prevent people from eating or telling people don't give him any food if he had a bad game. Folks, that's bullying. I don't know what to tell you. But again, when it comes to other athletes doing it, that's okay. No, I'm sorry. When other athletes do it, oh my God, every sports program is going to talk about that. But when it comes to MJ, according to the mainstream sports media, that's okay because the end justify the means. That's the price you have to pay for being great. And I'm sitting there watching this. I'm like, is this the Twilight Zone? Because everybody jumped on the Richie Incognito train about bullying. When Michael Jordan does textbook bullying, all of a sudden, that's okay because he won championships and it made him be great and the ends justify the means. And well, sometimes that's a price you have to pay and it toughen those guys up. I'm like, really? So these are some of the issues that I have. And again, when I pointed this out on Twitter, when I actually broke down the definition of what a bully is and insert Michael Jordan in that bully category, yet nobody says anything. But hey, I think LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about, and blah, 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 blah. But when I talk about this bullying stuff, now all of a sudden, nobody has anything to say. So that's what I mean by the hypocrisy of the mainstream sports media in their coverage of Michael Jordan. Yes, he might have been covered back then and criticized back then in the 90s. But as time has gone on, those criticisms have changed. And if anything, there's really no more criticisms because the man walks on water and it could be nothing that he ever did wrong, including evidence of bullying. And that was one of the biggest takeaways that I had added. While these same people who were against bullying so much, when Michael Jordan did the same thing, but it's okay because his team won. And those are some of the issues that I have with the mainstream sports media. But I thought as a whole, the Last Dance documentary was very entertaining. Of course, in the time of no professional sports being played right now, it definitely was a good antidote to one's boredom. So definitely well done. Of course, I didn't have an issue with the going back in the timeline because again, those are things that I remembered as a child growing up, things that I saw watching it. I was never a Bulls fan per se. I really started to really respect Mike when he came back. The flu game, or now we know as a food poisoning game. So that's when, I really started to respect Mike, but I never was really I was never really a Bulls fan. And anything, I always rooted for the Bulls to lose, but I always gave credit where credit was due. Of course, growing up in the New York area, Jersey to be exact, Newark to be exact. Of course, you always, at the time, the Knicks were a very good team, so you always thought the Knicks would beat the Bulls. So, but you definitely gave credit where credit is due. Oh, and by the way, on a personal note, have you noticed I can't find any of them Bulls fans back then? I can't find any one of those brothers. I mean, everybody was a Bulls fan back then, yet now for some reason I can't find too many of them. So, definitely was a good documentary. Definitely, it showed a lot, but my issue with it is not about MJ. Again, he's a man, we're human, he's not perfect. My issue is the way how the mainstream media covers Michael Jordan and how he's given a pass where other people are severely criticized, analyzed, and excoriated for doing the same exact thing. That is hypocrisy at its finest. Next topic, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, there's been a lot of little Dallas Cowboys news going on, and of course, I've been sitting back watching. And of course, Dak Prescott still does not have a contract yet. An associate of mine sent me a video of a hypothetical trade. Would they trade Dak Prescott to the Las Vegas Raiders, and what could they get in exchange for him? And that I thought was a very good video. The thing is, what are you going to get for him? would you draft a quarterback that high in next year's draft? Because really the two quarterbacks who are coming out will be one Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. So you definitely look at where will your draft position be. The team that you have now, I mean, it was an 8-8 team last year, right on the verge of the playoffs. You know, you figure have a new coach, new system, you upgraded the defense. Do you really want to make that change now? At least, finally, you have a backup quarterback, a damn good backup quarterback in one Andy Dalton. I've said this for years with the Dallas Cowboys. The biggest issue that they had was their backup quarterback. And I was saying this really since the Tony Romo days. Why? When I would watch preseason games, of course, you figure, Romo would play a couple of series, and he would play a half, and, of course, you'll see the ball moving down the field. But then when they put in the backup quarterback, I get nothing. Now, I said, well, what if Romo gets hurt? They're going to be in serious trouble. And it happened in 2010 when Romo got hurt. They were awful. And 2015 when Romo got hurt, they were awful. I kept saying, who is their backup quarterback? From the John Kitners and the Kyle Ortons. I kept saying this, the Brandon Whedons, who is their backup quarterback? Because I don't see anything, especially watching these preseason games. I don't see anything. And ironically, when Tony Romo getting hurt in 2015, they drafted Zeke, lucked onto Dak. Romo gets hurt in 2016, of course, it makes you think, and then Kellen Moore gets hurt, so you're like, damn, what are they going to do? They prop up Dak Prescott, who's been a starter ever since. So main thing, they've lucked into Dak Prescott being a backup quarterback. Again, Dak has been durable. I will give him that. I've had my issues with his play sometimes, but I will give him that. He has been durable, which is why I would take him over Carson Wentz. He's been durable. Now, in case he gets hurt, because you never know what can happen in the sport of professional football, he can get hurt. You bring in Andy Dalton, say what you want. He didn't win a playoff game, but the man got a team to the playoffs, 4 or 5 seasons. So I give the man his credit. He is definitely a serviceable quarterback, especially for the weapons that we have. So I think it was a good deal. I don't think they should trade Dak Prescott right now. I believe sign the 1-year offer and then make a decision next year. And I think that's how it should be. Again, I'm not giving a guy a long-term contract who just went 8-8. I mean, that's what I'm just not going to do. And that 8-8, losing that game against a Philadelphia Eagles team who pretty much had nobody. And you lost that game, and sorry, I'm just not giving you a long-term deal. We'll try it again this year. We'll sign the 1-year franchise tag, and we'll go back to the bargaining table next year. If it's more money and make a deep playoff run, okay, then I'll see breaking the checkbook open. But right now, I don't believe in that. Oh, and by the way, we're not trading him to the Raiders either. So, speaking of weapons, CeeDee Lamb, who happened to fall right to the Cowboys with a number 17 overall pick. The infamous video of CeeDee Lamb getting drafted, him reaching for his cell phone, the young lady who was sitting to his left, if that was his girlfriend, takes the phone out of his hand, and he promptly takes the phone right back, and people laughed about it. Now, for those of you who are in Dallas, listen to this program, I need you to go get CeeDee Lamb right now and let CeeDee listen to this, and go and hit the pause button. CeeDee, brother, drop that heifer. I'll say this right now in no uncertain terms, drop that heifer if you haven't done it already. Now, don't sit here, ladies, who listen to my broadcast, oh my God, check, how can you say that? Because I did. Even though the mainstream sports media is laughing about it, and we can't laugh about it, that had the potential to turn very dangerous for that young man. Now, what helped him out was, it happened on national television. She took the phone first, and he took it back. My issue with it is that as a black man in America, a black man who's about to become a millionaire, CeeDee, you need to understand, my brother, you are in the damn crosshairs. And you are in the crosshairs from the mainstream sports media, white folks, even certain women, brother, you are in the crosshairs. And I tell people, her snatching the phone like that out of his hands on national television, that's a problem. That's a level of disrespect that I hope CeeDee has some old school guys in his corner that's telling him that's not a good look. And here's why I say that. What if that would have happened without the camera? She says she calls the police. and says he put his hands on me. What happened? Well, she took my phone and I took it back. Oh, so there was some type of physical dispute. You see where I'm going with this? You see why it wouldn't be a good look for CeeDee? And then he would have said, well, he should have walked away from that. So that's what I'm saying. People are laughing about it now. They say it's funny. He needs to drop her with the quickness if he hasn't done it already. Because it's easy, and I'm not going to try, and don't try to make me out to be a damn misogynist, but it's easy for a woman to say that a man put his hands on me. Think about this for a minute. He put his hands on me. Now, unless you really peel back the layers and break that stuff down, that definitely gets people's antennas up by him putting his hands on me. As a black man, that video that you saw of him snatching that phone back can be switched or can be used against him later on when they flip the script and they say, well, he was being aggressive. Because that's a new term they like to throw out at brothers now. He's being aggressive. He's being aggressive. He's being aggressive. Like it's some term that you're just going to jump and attack somebody. So, CeeDee, my brother, be very careful with that. And then come and find out this young lady used to date one of them NBA players or somebody like that, Trey Young or something like that. So we have a term for that back then. It's called a sack chaser. So she's chasing that sack to get on some of this money, CeeDee, that you're about to make, and probably with the goal of trying to have your damn baby. So, brother CeeDee, please listen to what we're telling you here at Chit Chat Radio. You need to drop that broad with the quickness because of what she did on national television. That level of disrespect. If the cameras were not there, how would that narrative have played out? Just saying it again. How that narrative had played out, and you are a black man coming into this league, you now have everybody in the crosshairs. How would that have played out? Because let's face it, Ray Rice did not play in the NFL ever again when his wife went to attack him. His physical strength knocked her out. Guess what? He was out of the league. Yeah, I said it. Yes, I said it. So again, the same mainstream sports media now who was saying, well, maybe Ray Rice should have taken the punches. He should have walked away, even though he's in the elevator. He should have walked away. He should have done this. He should have done that. We're laughing about CeeDee Lamb. No, my brother. That could have turned very, very dangerous for you. So, CeeDee, brother, okay, if you're listening or any one of his people, go on and put this, and hell, you can cut and crop only to the part where I'm talking about CeeDee. Brother, drop that heifer. Right now, just go and tell her, baby, we're going to charge you to the game because, again, that could have gone very bad for you if it wasn't on camera. Guess what? It can go bad for you the next time you're dating that young lady and y'all getting into some type of dispute. She calls the police and says he put his hands on me. He snatched his phone away from me. All I did was pick up his phone and he came and he snatched the phone away from me. And I felt threatened. CeeDee, brother, that's not a good look to be starting off a new relationship, especially in a new career, in a relationship, for her to do something like that. I will go ahead and drop that heifer and just call it a day. Now, speaking of brothers who I have to give the side eye to, James Harrison. Now, James Harrison, if you've been following our program, he is on the Chin Check Radio all-time defense based on the players that we grew up watching. So, love James Harrison, love his workout videos. Hell, his workout videos inspire me when I go work out. Definitely gets me motivated. I love his workout videos. Definitely a hard hitter, one of the greatest linebackers in Pittsburgh Steelers history, etc., etc., etc. But I have an issue with James Harrison because he recently said that head coach Mike Tomlin once gave him $75,000, gave him $75,000 for a fine, telling him either good hit or something like that. Now you just put the spotlight on Mike Tomlin. James, brother, why the hell would that even come out your mouth? Even if it was true, brother, you don't say that. And here's where, it's my boy Stan, so I know you're listening. Here's why I've told you this before. When you wonder why black coaches don't get the chances that white coaches do, when you wonder why black coaches don't even get an interview or don't get the time on the job that white coaches do, and I've said this before, and I mentioned this on a previous broadcast because I put it on some of these black players because some of these Negroes will give a black man a hard time, but they will walk through a wall for a white guy. Yes, I've said it. It ain't the most popular thing to say, but damn it, it's truth time of day. You mean to tell me, James, why does that need to come out your mouth? Then all of a sudden now you have to backtrack the comments. Oh, there was no bounty. He didn't pay me for that. Oh, there was no this, there was no that. The point is, when you say stuff like that, brother, it opens a whole lot up for interpretation. It's like, really, man? So now you don't put the man in the crosshairs. Don't do that. It's like, James, even if the man gave you the money, shut the hell up. Seriously, shut your big ass up. Because my thing is, you did not have to say that, okay? Like, you really didn't. There's very few black coaches in the league right now, and you don't want to get the longest tenure black coach to have that type of stain on his record. I mean, come on, man. You don't do that, because guess what? You wouldn't say that about Bill Cowher. You wouldn't say that about Bill Belichick. So it's like, really, brothers? And I said this. Stop giving these coaches a hard time. Antonio Brown, you want to film and put the team beating on Facebook Live and all type of foolishness. However, I will give Antonio Brown credit. You were consistent in Oakland, but I find it funny now you doing a whole lot of begging and crying and apologizing because it looks like you're trying to get back into the damn league. Nah, brother, that's too late. And but the thing is, James, don't do that. I mean, that was nothing for you to say that. That was nothing for you to put out there like that. That was totally uncalled for. Brother, just keep your mouth shut. Even if the man broke you off some bread and say, look, man, we're going to take care of you for this fine, which I'm sure it happens. Guy gets fined. You know, he pays a fine. They cut a little check under the table or a little cash under the table. I'm sure that happens. But James, that was nothing for you to broadcast or nothing for you to say to the media, which now puts Mike Tomlin in the crosshairs, which the league can maybe open up all type of investigations on the man and stuff like that. That's just what you don't damn do, because guess what? You wouldn't have said that about a white coach. And those are some of the issues that I have. So when you wonder why these brothers aren't getting a chance that they get, because again, I've said this before, these black players will give a black coach a hard time. Remember the San Francisco 49ers when they were being coached by Mike Singletary? He was getting on them, threw Vernon Davis out of the game. All of a sudden, Vernon Davis became an all-pro tight end. He was getting into it on the sidelines with some of the players, stuff like that. The very next year, they bring in Jim Harbaugh. All of a sudden, he's a white coach savior. They'll walk through a wall for him. It's something where black folks have a thing where a black person can tell them something, oh, it's BS and I don't want to hear it. A white person can come and say the same exact thing that a black person said. All of a sudden, black folks act like it's the greatest thing in the world. And it's definitely like that in professional sports. Even though the black athletes have played the game, they played the game at a high level, they've been Hall of Famers, they have the credentials, but yet when a black man tells them something, they don't want to hear it. The white dude tell them something, it's the greatest thing in the world. Josh Gordon. For years, the folks in Cleveland, Hugh Jackson, trying to get him clean, trying to do this, trying to do that. He goes to New England. All of a sudden, he want to clean his act up even more, even though he fell off the wagon again and again. But he's willing to clean up his act up more because he's in New England next to Tom Brady with the white coach. So I just find that funny that some of these brothers will give the black coaches like a hard time, talk back to them, don't want to clean the act up, got plenty of excuses, and yet they'll be on their best behavior for the white coach. Chad Ochocinco, all his big mouth in Cincinnati, he gets New England, he ain't getting the ball in New England, all of a sudden now he quiet. Okay, remember in Cincinnati, he catching touchdown passes, but he's crying on the sidelines because it wasn't against a quarterback who he wanted to go against. You making Hall of Fame jackets and dancing with the Mexican band and playing golf with the pylon. You doing all this in Cincinnati with Marvin Lewis, but when you got to New England and you hardly catching any touchdown passes, and matter of fact, you ain't catching any passes, none whatsoever for that matter, all of a sudden now you're quiet in New England. So I just find it funny when you're being coached by the black man, you want to show out and you want to act a damn fool, but then now when you're on the white team with the white, I don't say the white team, but when you're with the white coach, like all of a sudden, now you're on your best behavior. Now you're a team player. When you was in Cincinnati, you were acting a fool, you were saying this and saying that. But when you go to New England, now you're quiet. So, brothers, this has to stop. Y'all cannot want to give these black coaches a hard time, but then when it comes to the white coach, all of a sudden you want to be on your best behavior. So whenever, wherever, and however you're listening to us, we definitely appreciate it. And until the next time, it's Chin Check Radio signing out.